morning, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and I have a very special show for you today. It's Friday. Oh, I'm so excited because I have two new friends. I have a returning guest that you've seen plenty of times before. We're going to talk about his story. But before we go ahead and introduce the guest, I am going to let you know that today's show is brought to you by the Real Estate Playbook, a 100% educational workshop presented by real estate instructor Deborah Spence, with a simple promise to help you develop a clear plan to sell more homes and earn a consistent income selling real estate. It's an in-person and virtual event. The link is in the Facebook post. Go ahead and check it out. And while you're checking it out, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest, Mr. Scott Ballard. And again, you've seen him here before. You've seen him a couple of times on the Roundtable Talk Show, as well as we had the opportunity to sit down in a one-on-one interview on Ask Sharifa videocast and podcast. Scott is a coach, speaker, author, confidence coach by asking deep questions, helps business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and leaders create breakthroughs. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to be back on, Sharifa.
It's always good to have you. So tell us what's going on. What's going on in your world now?
Yeah, I got a cool little project that we just launched last month, and we're going to add to our services peer advisory group for founders of businesses. And we'll do that virtually once a month, and there'll be about 10 people, 10 founders. And we will be acting as a board of directors for people that are scaling their companies. And I'm excited about that, to do a group thing. As you know well, Sharifa, I love to do things with people, and so we're excited about that. So we're launching that this month, and we've already got interest. And so if you're on the West Coast and you want to be part of a group like that or learn more about it, reach out to me.
Okay. So I love the idea. I love the idea of groups. One of the reasons why I do the Roundtable Talk Show, because I think that, especially after running for Long Beach City Council, I just realized it's not just one person's responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility to make this world a better place. But what is the group going to do? What are they going to come together to do?
Yeah, so we're going to come together to act as advisors for each of the members. So if you have a problem or a challenge, or you're stuck either in your business or in your personal life, we're going to put you on a hot seat. We're going to ask you a lot of questions, and we're going to help you find a solution or a breakthrough or an insight that will help you take your business and your life to the next level.
How many people roughly are on the panel?
It will be 10, and we just know from experience probably 8 to 9 people will be there. We'll do it once a month for 3 hours in the morning, and we're excited about it. We have a really, really reasonable investment, so we want to make it accessible to everybody in that founder market from $1 to $10 million a year in revenue. And as you well know, I've been coaching for 10 years. I've been an entrepreneur for 41 years. And so I'm super excited about doing this in a group setting instead of one-on-one or with a company. And I think it's going to be a blast, because it's kind of like your show, Sharifa. I mean, nothing's off the table, and it's going to be lively. And you know how founders and entrepreneurs are. I mean, it all comes out. And I love my people. I love the founders, entrepreneurs, and looking forward to doing that in a group dynamic and seeing people have breakthrough. I mean, that's what it's all about. So, yeah.
When people sit at this group table with this group thing, too often as entrepreneurs, we know we've plateaued, but we don't know what the question is or what to ask, or, Scott, can you help me? We just know that we need more. How is it that you're able to assist people who may not even be able to determine the question?
Well, the question to them really, Sharif, is where are you stuck? Where have you flattened out? Where are things not progressing, getting better, improving, making progress in your life or in your business? Like, where is that at? And then, there's always something in there. And so when people hesitate or whatever, I just dig in deeper. And so I'm kind of known as the question man. All of our clients are continually saying, wow, that's a great question. I hadn't thought about that. And so that's my job, is to really insert the right question for the right person at the right time. And I love doing that. That's a passion. And then from there, we will get clear about what's the objection, what's the obstacle that we need to address. And then you enlist 10 other people in a group think to go, okay, what really is it? What's the problem? What's going on? And then you can take all that experience of all those other founders and you can use that because somebody's already dealt with that, overcome that, and we will help them. And, we're like a board of directors, a board of advisors that they can have every month. And we're super stoked about it. And so, yeah, it's fun.
I'm super stoked about it as well. It sounds fun. And we're going to expect some great questions from you today because we have some guests.
You don't have to worry about that.
Let me go ahead and introduce our next guest, Mr. Jarie Bolander. Jarie is an engineer by training and an entrepreneur by nature. With over 25 years of bringing innovative solutions to markets such as Bluetooth, USB, Semiconductor DNA sequencing, he is currently a partner at JSY PR Marketing, a full-service PR and marketing firm that helps startups, nonprofits, and professional athletes tell better stories. Good morning, Jarie. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. And just like Scott's area, I'm in San Francisco, and it's a nice spring day. It's cloudy, 60, and a little breezy. So I don't think it's going to rain, but typical San Francisco summer or close to summer.
I have to get out there one day. It is on my bucket list. Haven't been there yet. But I am enjoying the weather in Long Beach. It's going to be 80 today, so I definitely can relate.
80. Wow, that's too hot.
Jarie, tell us about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And most importantly, what are you passionate about?
Oh, wow. That's a long, complicated story.
Well, you got 5 minutes.
I got 5 minutes. Okay. So as you said, I'm an engineer by training and an entrepreneur by nature. And I actually found myself doing PR and marketing, funnily enough, which if you would have asked me back when I was in college, I would have told you, wow, there's something in the air, because that's never going to be me. But like all good stories, the reason what I do today is because I met a girl. Her name was Jane. She died of leukemia 4 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. And she's the one that originally had the business. And when we fell in love, so to speak, she kind of turned me on to this whole idea of storytelling. And when she got sick, she looked me in the eye and said, Jarie, you got to step up, buddy, and run my business, because I can't. And so I left my digital health startup and became a PR maven, which again, to this day, it's odd to say. But what's really great about what I do now is I help people tell better stories, especially tech companies. And the process of what I do has also been very inspirational for me and healing. And what I always like to say is, I've had a lot of post-traumatic growth after dealing with the loss of my wife. But now, my life is so much better and more engaging because I really learned a lot of valuable lessons. And one of those lessons is that every day is a gift, and that you need to continue to try to find the joy in the world. And one of those joys is that now I have a fiance. So yeah, I know it always I try to bucket it in that it's tragedy, yet of course, hope and love, and which is beautiful and what I think we need more of in the world. So I'm really passionate, excuse me, about helping people tell stories, because I think and feel that tech entrepreneurs especially have a hard time, don't understand that their technology doesn't matter. It's the company organization that tells the best story usually wins. So that's sort of what I'm working on now. And trying to live every day, not like it's my last, but knowing that every day is precious. So.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Do you have a book? I gotta read this book.
Well, I am in the process of writing a memoir about my experience, Jane and I's experience going through that as a couple. I hope to, fingers crossed, within the next, year, publish it. As you can imagine, it's a pretty challenging thing to write. But one of the things that I've always found is that for me, writing is how I process the world. I know one of your other guests has had something similar to say. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but the process of writing synthesizes what's in my head. And for me, without doing that, I can't make sense of the world. So it's probably only natural that I write for a living, like I get paid to write, because a lot of the time these clients that I'm helping need better stories and they need a lot of good content. So yeah, soon the book will come out, and when it does, I'll definitely make sure to come back on and talk all about it.
That's right. Come on back. Now I'm going to come back to you. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest. And it's just incredible. This morning, I get to sit with 3 gentlemen. And something tells me we're going to talk a little bit about love today. But let's talk about technology with Mr. Santiago Bibiloni. Santiago is a Silicon Valley-based technology entrepreneur and co-founder and CEO at Core, an AI management software that serves worldwide top agencies and consultants. Before Core, he founded Balloon Group, one of Argentina's fastest growing digital agencies, among other businesses. Good morning, Santiago. How are you?
Hi, Jarie. How are you? I'm blessed of being here.
I'm excited to have you.
Same thing. And I'm also excited to be around Scott and Jarie. And Jarie, I'm so sorry about your story.
Yes. Tell us about yourself, Santiago. Who are you? What are you passionate about?
So, as you said, I'm Argentinian, 31 years entrepreneur, and we moved to the Valley 4 years ago to launch Core. Core is a solution that enable creative and professional teams to understand profitability in real time. What we I was hearing Jarie very with a lot of attention, because regarding stories, I understood that when in the billable hours market, like all companies that sell hours, consulting firms, agencies, law firms, like nobody cares about project management. I understood that everyone cares about projects profitability, and not running unprofitable projects is a key point. That's the problem. So who better defines the problem and creates a category is the one that's gonna lead it, right? So in our previous agency, so in our previous company that was an agency, the one you named, although we were growing a lot, I mean, we grew that company bootstrapped from 0 to 400 clients in 12 different countries. And it was named Argentina's fastest growing e-commerce agency at the time. Although that, our profit margins were pretty low. And at the time, we were using a lot of task management solutions that you probably know all of them. And today, our current customers, the ones you were mentioning, like Fortune 500 companies, like WPP, Omnicom, Dentsu have us, IPG, Publicis Group, like the largest creative agencies, they switched from these tools to join us because none of those tools have the P&L there. So I'm very passionate about bringing this solution to the world and growing this company, because we understand that by doing it, we are helping a lot of creative and professional teams that are having a hard time in terms of salaries and turnover, right? I mean, if you don't know your project's profitability, you cannot negotiate your fees with your clients. And if you cannot negotiate your fee with clients, it's impossible to raise salaries on your team. So you might probably know a lot of people working on agencies, and moreover, that are having hard times with their salaries. And we're here not just to make shareholders richer, but to make creative junior people, designers, copywriters, to have a better living.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. A lot of information. So I'm going to go over to Jarie real quick, because I heard everything Santiago said from a technical, entrepreneurial, business owner perspective. But if I was looking for that type of assistance, I would, how would you create into a story, Jarie? How would you tell that as a story to the consumer?
Well, I mean, Santiago, I think, nailed it about what is the big idea or the big problem. So profitable, is my project profitable? And that's sort of like the high level of the high level. I always like to say, take the highest ground you can, because the highest ground or the biggest idea you have is always going to ripple down. And some people refer to this as the big domino. If you knock down the big domino, the rest of what you say is just a foregone conclusion. So as an example, for Santiago's company, it really sounds like the pain point is, are these projects profitable? And if they're not, how do I either make them profitable or never do them again? And he's 100% correct and spot on when it comes to this for all kinds of agencies, not just what I do or what he does or what he used to do. Anytime you have a consultant practice, this is a huge issue to try to overcome. And so in terms of the story, usually we lead with emotion. And Aristotle, if you know who he is, back in the day, over 2,000 years ago, had a methodology, his rhetorical framework, where he talked about the pathos, the logos, and the ethos. And the pathos being the emotional appeal is always first and foremost, because you're never going to get your message through unless you hit an emotion. That emotion has to be strong. And then again, you knock down the big domino. Then after that, it's just like, okay, we're haggling about price almost. Yeah. So I think he's nailed it. I think, again, it's a work in progress, but my guess is find that emotional appeal, find that big idea, that big domino, and just hammer on that until people come to your side.
Yes. Santiago, hammer on the emotion.
Yeah.
Where's the emotion?
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, you're Argentinian and like Latin American. You should have passion, You have like great soccer team,
Yeah.
Channel that,
No, like truly, we lived all these problems that I'm mentioning firsthand, right? Because we first worked on agencies, and then we started our own. So we were always seeing people and ourselves trying to make a better salary and make a better living. And it was like almost everyone would think that the managers or the owners of the agency are the ones keeping the money, and there's no money in the business. I mean, the margins are pretty low, and every time a new client will ask you for a change or for something, you will try to have a happy customer, right? So you will make all of that, you will incur in more hours, more costs, and you will end up having an unprofitable project.
Yeah, so then what we need a board of advisors. We need to sit down with people like Scott and say, Scott, what do we do? How do we solve this problem?
Yeah. So I have a thought for you, Santiago. The thought is, what is the pain that they're experiencing? What's waking them up at 3:15 in the morning? And then how do you amplify that pain? And then after you have that pain, you've amplified it. How do you clearly say, and here's the solution? So
Great.
It all starts, I've been an entrepreneur for 41 years. I had 11 businesses in my 20s and 30s that died. They went bankrupt, they failed. I failed in every way possible, fast, slow, in every kind of industry. But nobody really spoke to my pain until I got into my 12th company. and I had a mentor that spoke about the pain and the solution. So you got to enter the customer's mind and go, okay, what is driving him or her crazy? And what is the most painful thing? And then you have to exaggerate. It's like Jarie was saying, you have to exaggerate it to the point where it gets their attention. And then you have to say, and here's a simple, easy solution. And we've developed this just for you, not for the whole industry, but for you, the founding entrepreneur, the agency owner. I'm speaking only to you, right? The solution is customized. And then after that, I tell them some stories of people that have used the solution, the testimony of this is how it's worked for somebody just like you, right? But if I don't meet the founder, if I don't meet the agency owner in their pain, and I amplify it and exaggerate, almost like a cartoon, like, wow, when I was a kid in the 60s, they had the cartoons, it was like, bang, wow, all this stuff. If I don't do that in this world, which I did not grow up in, you only have a millisecond. And the greatest way to catch somebody's pain or to catch their attention is in their pain, and then exaggerate it. And then they stop for a second, they become arrested because fear is in their mind, like it can take control. And then you have the opportunity to talk about what you do. I love it. I love what you're doing, and you're spot on, but you got to go deeper on the pain.
Santiago, we ready to go deep? We ready to go deeper on the pain?
Yeah, we have all our SDRs team, all our sales development representatives. They all have the playbook for going very deep.
That's when the passion comes out, the sales team. Santiago says, I'm just explaining the process. I'm not selling the process.
I can sell it right over.
Scott, so we listened to Jarie. Jarie talked about his incredible journey, about how he unexpectedly wound up in this industry. And the basis of it is love. Scott, talk a little bit about your business and who you work with. Yeah,
we work with entrepreneurs, founders, business owners. And, it's interesting. We have, because my background of having so many failures and then having an epic success, our last company before coaching, we started at our kitchen table with $100, me and my wife, and we're able to build it to the third largest distributor of that product in the country in 5 years. And then we took it from there to 42 states. And for 21 years, we were in the top 3 of selling that product. I had no experience in that product. I had no background. I had no education. I'm severely dyslexic, so I don't read and write. So I had to build a team, Sharifa. I had to find people that had genius and brilliance to surround me, and then I had to empower and believe in them. And when I did that, the magic happened, right? And I didn't do that in my first 11 companies that failed. I tried to do it all myself. I tried to wear all the hats, and that did not work out really well. So I help founders, business owners, entrepreneurs sort that out, work in their genius, in their superpower, and then learn how to delegate and empower a team around them. And when that happens, you've got a team that's not, it's unstoppable. And you can storm an industry, you can take over a niche. I did it. We had no finance. We never took a loan. We never had anything. And I had no training. I mean, I got out of high school because I was really good at sports. I had no grades. I mean, I had more F's and D's in school than anybody else. But I learned how to work with people, and I learned the power of empowering somebody else. And I had the ability, because I was dyslexic, to see the genius in Sharifa and then bring it out in her and tell her and build her. So as a coach now, I've been doing what I'm doing since I was 7 years old. And that's seeing the greatness in you and partnering with that, and then doing something like winning in sports, winning in business, and winning in life, which is the most important thing.
Yes.
As entrepreneurs, we got to remember that it isn't just about our work. As Jarie said, it's about your whole life. And so that's what we do. We help people win in their business and their life. And it is a passion. I haven't worked since I've been doing this work, My wife is the owner of the business. She's the CEO, and she's brilliant. You know, she's the genius. She's the other side of what I am. And yeah, we're just blessed to be able to do this. We love business people like they're our people. Like, you know, like, we love them. You know, when they cry or we get a text or an email like, oh my God, this has happened. You know, my number one person just walked out the door to be a competitor. This just happened. And, you know, the whole world is coming to an end. That's where we step in. You know, I love to step in when it seems like it's all coming to an end, because that's the new beginning. And that's where we get to go to the next level. And so, yeah, we're very fortunate. And Sharifa, we've talked about this. You know, I couldn't do this, you know, without my wife, and she's really the superpower behind what we do and what our clients experience and the success they have. So she'll never be on a show like this, by the way. She is the introvert, and so this is what I get to do all day long. Is talk.
That sounds fun.
It's awesome.
Santiago, when you hear Scott tell this story, what are your thoughts?
I can relate. I can relate also to the loving stories about Jarie and Scott. I mean, if it wouldn't be of my wife, I mean, who is at this moment with our 7 months old baby, helping me to have this conversation with you guys. So wouldn't be for her, I mean, I wouldn't be here.
Wow.
Oh, that is so beautiful. You guys are about to make me cry. Jarie, when's the wedding?
Well, that's thank you for all the love in the room. And yeah, you're right. I think the partnership between, you know, spouses is one of the most important things to foster, and the support is just phenomenal, even in my life, you know, with Jane and now with Minerva, my fiance. And so, yeah, in terms of the wedding, I think the pandemic needs to be over because we actually want people to go to the wedding, you know?
You don't want to do a Zoom wedding? They've been doing them for a year and a half.
You know, I'm kind of old school that way, you know, like to feel the love in the room. And, you know, we've got a lot of family that we would love to have there. So, yeah, it's going to be, after the pandemic. And, you know, there's a lot of, well, I mean, it's just so interesting that you brought up a spouse and how it is to have a loving spouse and someone that's supportive, because, you know, when I was going through all the challenges after Jane died, you know, Minerva was just a kind of a rock for me to kind of like rebuild my life. And when I talk about, you know, the tragedy and the sorrow and the grief of it all, I think, as Scott mentioned, when something ends, can be a new beginning. Now, I could have gone the bad path. In fact, there's a lot of times where I was going down the bad path. You know, was abusing alcohol and drugs to null and dull the pain. But when you have a catastrophic event, and there's degrees of catastrophe, right? Losing a spouse is pretty catastrophic. Your business going, a competitor going, it's catastrophic in its own way. But this mindset, as Scott mentioned, which I really love, and I'm so glad you brought this up, where it is the beginning if you choose to make it a beginning. Yeah. If you don't choose to make it a beginning, you can, you know, have this post-traumatic fallback, or you can have post-traumatic growth. And I think that's what I've learned throughout this whole process is even finding the good, which is, I know, hard to think about, hard to say, and even harder to realize. And I never wish this on anyone, but when that does happen to you and you hold it in your hands and you're at a crossroads in your life, no matter what kind of issue it is, you need to choose. And I hope you choose the growth path and find something to hold on to, because I think that's what got me through it. I mean, Minerva as well, of course, and my family, but boy, it really resonated with me, Scott. I think you're so right. And, you know, Santiago, with your wife, and that support is so critical. I mean, literally couldn't do what we do without the support of our loved ones, right? This is such a crazy job. Like who's crazy, silly enough to think they can change the world? Oh, we do. Right here.
Right.
Right?
That's what entrepreneurs do.
Oh, yeah. We're crazy that way. Yeah.
Changing the world, but it helps. And I wanted to point this out, not just because of the love aspect and the warm and fuzzy and the mushy, but for entrepreneurs, it is so vital that you have a great support system around you, because it can really affect your dream and your progress if you don't have people around you cheering you on and saying you can do it. And, that could be a success. So like Scott said, with the $100 on the table, he started this venture. Now with Jarie, with you were forced into this by necessity and because of the request that you received. But as a new business owner without a background in maybe not marketing, but in PR, how did you operate the business? I mean, was it a challenge to you? Did you go, oh my God, what do I do now? Okay, I can tell the story, but I have absolutely no idea how to do accounting. Like, what was that process for the business like for you?
Incredibly stressful, to be honest, because not only was I running her business, but I was also her primary caregiver. And what's interesting is when, someone has leukemia, they don't have an immune system. So all the protocol that people have been doing for COVID, wearing a mask, distancing, washing your hands, you have to do that when someone has cancer, because they have no immune system. They could get sick really easily. And the thing is that she continued to work because she absolutely loved what she did. Like, to the point of, I'm like, one time I said, why don't we just shut this down so that we can focus on getting you better? And she literally looked at me with these big brown eyes and says, you can't shut my baby down. Yeah, right. And at that point, I'm like, well, I'm never bringing that up again. You know what I mean? And so for me, the hard part was, I don't even know what a publicist, PR person does. I mean, to me, marketing was 2-drink minimum. Like, what do you guys do? And not only that, we were also dealing with professional athletes, which, I do jujitsu. I like to do sports. I don't like to watch sports. I mean, I barely can keep my man card on sports, right? So I had no idea what to do. And I remember the first client we had was during the Super Bowl 50 here in San Francisco, the 50th Super Bowl. And it was a client dealing with human trafficking. And it was called the Bay Area Anti-Trafficking Coalition. And it was this No Traffic Ahead initiative. And literally the Super Bowl is in like February. Jane gets diagnosed in December. I start working with this client in January. And I remember the first meeting. I walk into this room, there's 200 people all dealing with anti-trafficking in the Bay Area. Huge problem, always kind of gets exacerbated and more trafficking during these events. And I'm looking around and I'm one of like 2 men in the room. And I'm the only white guy in the room, because this was like this huge coalition of all these different organizations, because this is a huge problem in minority community for trafficking. And they're all looking at me like, okay, Mr. PR person, what are we going to do? I'm like, I have no idea. Well, I had a little bit of an idea because Jane had prompted me, but I had to learn quick. And I think the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is you learn how to zig and zag. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable in situations. And not to say that you BS your way through it, but to Scott's point, asking questions. Like I just really thought, okay, I just need to figure out what I got to do. And I just would ask lots and lots of questions. And then I, kind of learn from there. And I think that's the key critical piece. You got to learn something new, got to have the beginner mindset. I mean, my ego went out the window. I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing. I even admitted, I said, hey, I'm second string here. Like, she would love to be here, but she can't. You got me. And they were very kind and considerate. So, I mean, it was good. And then we had a great campaign after that. But I remember, first press conference, setting up a first press conference, almost unmitigated disaster.
But yet you can look back and laugh now. I think that's the most important thing. Some of the things we've gone through, but we can look back and laugh. Santiago.
I understand, Jarie. pretty well. Today, within Core, we're growing at a 9% month over month, and we're still a early stage tech company. And like investors would say, like what they love about the business is that we have a predictable revenue model that is kind of like sustainable and growing. And the reason, what I always answer to like, how do you guys build this so early stage? And I can relate very well with what Jarie said, like starting through the bottom, like coming from the very bottom. I mean, I need to hustle a lot when I was 26 years old to move to the US, to start in Silicon Valley from scratch, hustle for a green card, I came here with no good English, no network. I mean, I knew no one. So I think that people here give for granted a lot of things. And I knew that at the end, I would compete in terms of investors and clients and everything with people that were born here, that had like their native language, native like passport, network connections, friends of friends, your uncle, your cousin. Everyone could be your first client, your first investor. In our case, no one. Even when we moved here, like no one would rent us an apartment because we have no credit score. So things that you even like don't think about, right? Because you think that that's like for granted. That's for sure you have that, right? So for us, starting from scratch, what Jarie was saying, I mean, I can totally relate with that. But when you have a big ambition, ambition in the good sense of the word, right? When your vision is so big and you know that you're not gonna stop until you build something very big and very successful that has a huge impact in the world and make a lot of lives better and businesses better, you won't stop until that. So if it's moving from a country, learning a new language and everything, I mean, that's just part of the journey.
Yes, that is incredible, Santiago. I can relate. I can kind of visualize the whole picture. Now, one of the things that you said was you were hustling. You were hustling. And I know some people will hear that and go, okay, but what were you doing? You land in this country. You don't speak the native language. What are some of the first things you do to start networking, to meet new people, to build your business? What are the first actual tangible steps?
Right. So first, of course, friends like Argentinian community. Then we enter into 500 startups, a big accelerator here. And the crazy thing there is that we applied 2 times. So we applied the year before we entered. So the following year, when we applied again, I remember going through the website, filling the form, and then receiving an email. So like, hey, okay, are you fine with having an interview? And I said, yeah, I can go there. I can go to your office. They said like, wow, are you here? I thought you were in Argentina. So when we were at the office, there were 7 of them, like venture partners. And I was there by myself alone, 5 months from arriving here to the US in San Francisco. And they asked me like, hey, Santi, like, why are you here? You applied last year and you were rejected. I said like, and like, I'm not like, I'm going to build this company with or without you. Like, this company is going to be successful with or without you. I hope it's with you because we like 500. I mean, you have a great reputation and it's great, but it's your take. So I think that what they thought is I don't know if this guy is going to make it or not, but we don't want to lose this chance. I mean, if this guy is crazy, at least we're going to hear a little bit more. So, and regarding communities, so that's one community that we start building, all entrepreneurs. And then, of course, after almost 5 years, you start building Stanford, 500 friends of friends. And once you start getting great investors, also like great people connect you with great people as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, Jarie, I saw you over there clapping and laughing and shouting and everything. What were your thoughts?
Well, I was part of 500 startups too, batch 14. Lab sensor solutions.
22.
So, so Marvin and Clayton and all those guys, so I understand exactly what he went through, because my experience was similar. Where
how Marvin asks things, right?
Yes, a brick to the face is what he used to say. And batch life. I mean, I just love those guys. It was so transformative to be part of that accelerator and then be part of a community. As Scott mentioned, the peer mentorship in the community of entrepreneurs is so strong. And, Santiago said it as well. When you have that community of people around you that are all kind of in the same boat, it's like, oh, we're in it together. The entrepreneur community is so willing to help. It's unlike any other kind of business community where you could shout at the top of the mountain, this is what I'm doing, I need help. And everyone like, yeah, we're in, even if they're competitors, because everyone knows how hard a job this is. And same thing where we got in the kind of the first shot for batch 14. But the reason we got in was because Jane knew Elizabeth Yin and actually didn't even know Elizabeth Yin. Cold outreach to her when she was there, the Mountain View office, because they had the same last name. So she's like, well, I'm a Yin and you're a Yin, let's get together. And literally she's the one that set the meeting up with Elizabeth and I. And then I met Marvin, and then I met Ed, and then I met Pete, and then I met Andrea, and then boom, I'm in, or our team was in. And it was just a whirlwind, absolute whirlwind. And yeah, I'm glad we're batchies together. That's awesome, man. 22 and 14, it's just, they're still going strong. And was
Scott,
so powerful.
Scott, I'm feeling a little left out. They're batchies.
They're bad. We can batch. We're good. We'll form a group. You're
already doing it. Yeah.
Hey, I have a question or a thought to throw out from Santiago and Jarie both and Sharifa. So how, as an entrepreneur, Santiago, as coming in and doing that, how do you not lose that superpower of an immigrant entrepreneur, not going to take no? How do you not lose that? And then the second part of that question is, how do you pass that on to the people in your team, in your company, in your employees? How do you pass that on so that becomes the DNA and doesn't get diluted by other influences, people capitalizing your company and then saying, I want to speak into it? Like you've got something so extraordinary in your story of, it's how this country was built. I absolutely love it. And on a sidebar, you should write a book. And I'm dead serious. You should write the book, not that you want to write the book that you're afraid of. The real story, you need to write the book that you're afraid to write, because that's going to help a lot of people. But I want to hear from both you the answer to that. How do you not lose this? I call it a superpower. It's like, I'm going to do this or die. Kind of like that's, and then how do you pass that on in a healthy way to the guy or gal you're hiring tomorrow as your 27th employee or whatever the number is? How do you do that? And then how do you protect that in a world of investors that all want to give you a check and then say, but I want to speak into what you're building. Like, I want to have an influence on how people are thinking. And those are just, sorry, I'm a question person.
I'll start. Okay. So it's a great question, Scott, and thank you for asking it. I mean, I would never take a no as an answer, and the reason is because why should I take it? I mean, if I know that we can make it, I mean, I'm totally sure that we can make it. If a lot of people made it, why can't we do it as well, right? So, and after knowing a lot of successful entrepreneurs firsthand or reading, I mean, you know that resilience is key. And I mean, if you don't persevere, like you're getting nowhere. So there's one of our first investor, that is Marcos Galperin, that is the founder and CEO of Mercado Libre, that is the Amazon for Latin America, like $100 billion company. I mean, he told me, like, it's thinking big, it's teamwork, and third and probably most important thing, it's resilience. And I mean, as an entrepreneur, there will be a ton of times that it's easier to close the business, to close the business, but keep on going. And I remember after we got into 500, we fired our CDO, co-founder, and we were about to launch the product. I'm not the tech guy, and so I was with my product team in Argentina. I was here in the Valley, raising money, doing marketing, pre-sales, sales, post-sales, everything, PR, and at the same time, I was coordinating a tech team. But I'm always glad to my other co-founder, who is also not a tech guy. He's COO and CFO, and he helped with that, and he kind of led the team, the engineering team, and until we hired the next CTO. But at that time, Scott, to your point, so there was a time where all my neck was wrinkled. I couldn't move. All my back. I was totally stressed. I think I was going to pass out. I mean, there's one day I was living at Haight Street, where all the hippie things started. I was living in over Haight with a lot of noise, and I remember starting one day, and my wife pushing me out of the bed because I couldn't stand up by my own. I was 27, so I needed to stand up by handling the door and the window, because I couldn't make it. I couldn't stand up, and I said to myself, if I don't die in this one, like, we're going very big. It's one or the other. And
wow, that's incredible. I thank you for everyone today being so transparent and authentic, because it is not easy. It's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. Jarie, I'd love to hear your response to Scott's question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very insightful one, and I get asked this a lot, and I talk about it a lot on my podcast, the Entrepreneur Ethos podcast, which is based on the book, How to Build a More Ethical, Inclusive, and Resilient World. So I've interviewed entrepreneurs about this, and to Santiago's point about grit, resilience, hustle, I think also discipline comes into that. And more importantly, when it comes to culture, you can never start too early to build the culture of your company. And that is a thing that a lot of entrepreneurs sort of leave to the end, so to speak. And you really, if you walk the walk and talk the talk, that's sort of you as this founder set the culture. And that kind of immigrant spirit, so to speak, that blue collar work ethic, the like, I am not going to fail, even if I may fail in different ways. I mean, Scott's story about I failed 11 times at businesses and the 12th one hit. I mean, Scott really never failed. He's just learning on the path to what he's truly meant to do. And it might seem a little woo-woo that like, oh, I've been put on this earth to do my big thing, my superpower, my share my gift with the world. But it's true, because each one of us is unique in some way. And as we build a company, who the culture of the company can and will be driven by the people that found the company. And so for me, if you appreciate the immigrant work ethic, what built this country, if you appreciate the hustle and the drive, then you're going to want to reflect that in who you hire. And you're also going to want to have to communicate that more often than you think, because what you say and what you do matter to a certain degree. And, you know, about investors and them trying to put their fingers in things, it's also important to get good investors. And there's smart money and there's dumb money. And Santiago will know about this. I'm sure Scott does too. Like, yeah, sometimes you don't want to take money from certain people because they may not believe in your vision, you know? And if your vision is, I'm going to rule the world on this certain thing, or I'm going to help people, you know, do what I think is my gift to the world, they got to be bought in. And it is so hard over time to continue that culture of innovation and being humble and hungry and knowing where you came from. And, you know, history teaches this as well, right? You see over time, these, you know, massive empires crumble because the people that have taken over the empire, like Genghis Khan as an example, as his sons and daughters were kind of going up and living a life of relative opulence, they got soft. And then they got conquered, right? So I think you always got to keep that edge and be really humble and really respectful. And I think also if you have that ethos in you, like this is what we believe, write that down as fast as you can and live it and breathe it and just bring people with you that have that same ethos, because ultimately the culture of your company is what's going to make it survive. No technology doesn't matter as much. Of course, marketing and sales, but boy, to get through the tough times, it's that culture and that ethos of your company. So
absolutely. I believe it's well said. Now we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching the show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And we're going to start with you, Santiago.
Thank you, Jarie. I was not prepared for this one, but I will tell everyone that the most important thing is to have your goals clear, right? And to set up your goals. It's very important. People normally don't set goals for themselves. And I start every new year, I set my New Year's goals, right? So I think if you have clear goals, you have a clear vision, and if that vision is also solving other people's problems, I mean, that's huge. You need to go there. You need to go that path, and nothing will. You also need to know that there will be a lot of times that you think you can't move forward, that you need to stop. And you need to know that the people who get there are the ones that already suffered the things that you're suffering, but they didn't stop. They didn't quit. That's the difference. People that quit and people that don't quit. So I'm not sure if I am a person that can recommend stuff to another one, but if I can, that's my one thing.
And where can people find out more information about you?
About our company, it's in projectcore.com. And about myself, you can go through LinkedIn, and there's also a mini website with my name that my team put together for some PR purposes.
Okay, we'll check it out. Jarie, what should the people take away from your appearance here today?
Well, thanks you once again for having me on the show. I was just blown away by all I've learned, Scott, Santiago, Sharifa. It's just been a pleasure. And I love doing these things because I always learn something. And learning for me, I think, is the most important thing. So I'd say always continue to learn, work on your processes and your frameworks for getting your job done. Santiago mentioned about goals, but what's also important is trust the process, because sometimes the goals may not be perfect and you may have to zig and zag. I'd say a lot of times people don't work on telling their story effectively enough. So really practice that. Practice the clarity of your communication so that you're clear, concise, and compelling in everything you talk about. Hone that, practice that like you're a stand-up comedian. If you're going to have to pitch customers or pitch a company, like what, Santiago and I did for 500 startups. I mean, every week we would practice pitching our company, and we had to get that pitch down to 2 minutes, like solid 2 minutes. Imagine talking about your whole company in 2 minutes. That's what I learned from 500 startups. Also, I think you need to enjoy the journey. You got to be in this business game, so to speak, entrepreneur, for the right reasons. And it's all about what we're talking about here. A community of like-minded individuals that are seeking to develop an independent life that completes them. All of us on this call, that's what we strive for. And thankfully, we've all learned a lot of stuff. And I think this is the last thing. If you know something, share it. Santiago, you should write a book, like Scott said. I've written 6, and you should definitely write a book. It's not that hard. If I could do it, anyone can do it.
Yes. So. Where can people find your 6 books or more information about your company?
Yeah, well, there's JSY PR.com is the PR and marketing company. I also do a podcast called The Entrepreneur Ethos Podcast. That's theentrepreneurethos.com. And that's all about how to build a more ethical, inclusive, and resilient world by educating and inspiring the next generation of entrepreneurs. So that's my mission now, is to take what Jane was doing in her legacy and my legacy, and then build this independent life that completes me by, helping the next generation figure it out. So
that's wonderful. Definitely wonderful. Thank you, Jarie. Scott, did another excellent show, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. This is really good, really good. A couple of things that I would add to what the guys said there was get clear on what you really want. And then ask yourself again, what is it? What else do I really want by doing this business? And that's just not the business, but that's your whole life. What do you want it to produce? What do you want what the experience to be like? Get really clear, like Santiago said, get really clear and define what that is. And to use Jarie's terminology, maybe even write the story of the future of what you want. Write it down in words, because when we write it down, it becomes clear in our mind, and it's like cement. It's like it's settled. I really would encourage you to do that. And then the third thing that I would say was, don't try to do this alone. The loneliest people on the planet are founders, are entrepreneurs. And if you're looking for a guide, an old bald guy that has been 41 years in the trenches, I love to guide people on this journey. It's what I live for. It's what I was made to really do. And so, that's what I took away. And Sharifa, this was like the best call we've been on. Like, this was awesome.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Feel free, as always, to come back. I want to thank you all for being guests on this Friday's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. And I especially want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives. Just because you didn't catch the show live doesn't mean we still don't need your support, because we do. Please go ahead and share the show, whether you're watching it 2 months from now, 2 years from now, it doesn't matter. Share the show. But as always, please don't just watch the show and share the show. Support our guests. Our guests are here this morning to share their stories and their journeys, and they have been so transparent and authentic today. Please support them. Their website link is in the Facebook post. But as always, don't just visit the website. Follow them on social media. Reach out to them. Send them a message. And when you do, please let them know Sharifa Hardy says hi. Now, if you're interested in more ways that I can help your business, or maybe you want to be a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit my website at asksharifa.com. Until Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.